Hi, so you're joining us for episode 15 of the Inspiring Salon Professionals podcast. And this week we're on video and on audio because we've got the wonderful Nickie Rhodes-Hill joining us, who is an award-winning session tech and celebrity manicurist. And she's going to be talking to us today about everything surrounding session work and how you get into it, and what it is that she's got coming up that's going to be hopefully helping lots of people take that career pathway too. So without further ado, I'll hand over to the interview and see you on the other side. Wonderful. So hello, Nickie. We're bringing Nickie Rhodes-Hill session tech to our world today. So just to start with, Nickie, if you'd just like to give us an introduction to who you are and what your background is, please.
Oh, hi everyone. My name's Nickie Rhodes-Hill, as Sue's just said. I'm currently mostly involved in doing session work, but I started off almost 20 years ago doing getting into the professional nail industry and loving it, dreaming it, sleeping it. All I thought about was nails, and I just went into it, opened my little salon in Tunbridge Wells, ran that for about 8 or 9 years until the landlord went bust, and then I ended up going mobile. And then during the course of doing an event with Sweet Squared, I bumped into Lisa Smith, and I hadn't seen her for many years. And she was my tutor originally.
Oh, wow, yeah.
And she was giving a talk about session work, and my ears sort of like, oh, this sounds like something I'm really interested in. And so I just sort of like from about 2013, I suppose, when I went mobile after my salon had to close, I was doing mobile, and I decided that, doing something else nail related would actually work quite well. And then when this sort of like little talk by Lisa came up, I thought, actually, that is it. That's where I want to aim my challenge to myself next.
Yeah, and it is, I think sometimes those things just kind of, something just grabs you, doesn't it? It's like for me, like the competitions grab me. And I think for a lot of us that have kind of diversified a little bit, you just see that little chink of something that you think, oh yeah, that's good.
Definitely.
That's my next thing.
Yeah, definitely. It's at the end of the day, whether you're doing competitions or session work, it's all challenges to your own personal creativity, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, the session world is really quite challenging. There's so many different pressures and deadlines and stuff involved in it.
So there is, and it's also very spontaneous and last minute, and you have to get yourself together and up to London within a matter of hours sometimes.
I know, this is it, because I was saying on my last episode, I've been trying to pin you down for a couple of weeks, and it's like, and your life just is literally can be very, that's it, you're off and you're gone.
Yeah,
and stuff comes
exactly.
Up.
It is, it literally, you just don't know from one day to the next. Sometimes you might not get anything for 2 or 3 weeks, and then all of a sudden you might have 3 weeks where you haven't got room to breathe.
Yeah. But that's it is quite it's quite a difficult way to plan your life, really, isn't it? But it's enjoyable.
It is. I mean, I chose to go into it 99% of my time, so I've got a very small client base as well. Yeah. It's a little bit smaller since the pandemic, but then clients do come and go. They're not yours for life anyway. So. It is.
And I've just lost one of mine, actually. He's been with me for 16 years, and I know I'm moving and everything's a bit unsettled, but after 16 years of fortnightly hand holding, she's gone, and it's like, and I'm so gutted, but it is one of those things, isn't it? Life moves on and things change.
I mean, a lot of my clients have been with me since day one, and one I just went to see this morning, she's been with me since 2003, which is 2002, 2003 when I first started, and she's still with me. And then some have been with me for 10 years, gone away, come back again.
Yeah, this is it, isn't it? I think if and I think if you're good at what you do, people do tend to stick around, and if they do go away for any reason, they usually will come back and find you, won't they?
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
So just as a little, because we were sort of talking just before we started recording about the glamorous vision that everybody seems to have of session work, and how so many people that are entering the industry see fashion shows and like advertising shoots and all that kind of stuff as a key factor of why they might want to come into the industry, because it is that glamorous bit of being with the celebs and models and all that kind of stuff. But and I know as well that it isn't quite so glamorous. So sometimes I'm sure it is, and you get to be in amazing places. But can you just sort of give us like a sort of a view of what a day in the life of a session professional is?
Well, if you're doing, let's start, say, for instance, with Fashion Week. I mean, obviously, Fashion Week is a slightly different animal at the moment, because it hasn't really regained where it left off at the beginning of the pandemic. So we don't know, there isn't a way forwards, to know how it's going to move forwards. But say, for instance, you get asked, or as a lead nail tech, I get asked to sort of provide a team of nail techs for a show. I would get them all together. I would put a little post out on Facebook. I've got a couple of Facebook groups that I would post in to get them there. And it basically, they're given all the details to meet wherever the show is taking place. You get to the show. You might have to wait for another show to finish before you can go in, because obviously you'll get muddled up with who's with what designer. And then you set yourself up. You get given a call sheet, and not a call sheet, a model sheet with all the models on. Some of them might be coming from another show, but the glamorous side of it is really what that you see. You know, what's videoed and what you see as what a consumer would see. The backstage side is quite tight at times. You know, you might be sitting under a table painting toads. You might be standing backwards with a model got a hand behind that way, so you can paint her nails, because hair and makeup are around them like little mosquitoes, you know, and you're having to be under the table doing toes and behind their head doing hands. It's not as glamorous.
Not quite as glamorous, and actually that must have quite a physical impact on you as a.
It can do. And if you're doing like 5 to 10 shows over a 5-day period.
Yeah.
You know,
because all that being in cramped spaces must be quite difficult on the shoulders and the arms and stuff and knees.
Yeah, definitely. It's something to bear in mind, to sort of always make sure you move around either between a model or whoever's nails you're doing. You move around, you stretch and everything like that, because there is a manic time, and that's usually the last 5 minutes before they go on the runway. And there's some models are still arriving then from previous shows, so everyone's like on them like bees to honey.
And so when you're doing a shoot, like when you're doing like a fashion show, it would be much more sort of in the moment. They literally come in, they have their nails painted, or do you do you have work that you pre-prepare? I can't say the word. Pre-prepare.
Sometimes there is a preparation period. If they want press on, they want extravagant long nails, there is a pre-prepare. To be fair, you need to be able to be really organised for that side of things. So your team lead needs to know where they're going to get the press on nails from, how they're going to adhere them to the nails without using nail adhesive directly on the nails. So that they're easily removable, they have to be painted, they're dry. That you have to make sure you've got a variety of sizes, so you don't just do sizes 1 to 10, you do sizes 1 to or 0 to wherever, but you do multiple numbers of them, because you don't know what size fingernails the models are going to have. And if you start to run out, they're just going to have whatever sizes you've got left as a close a fit as possible. You know, and that can happen. You know, and then you see at the end of it, you just see them all over the floor.
No, all that hard work.
Quite often because they're rushing off to go somewhere else. You see them all over the floor, and then you're thinking, oh dear, all that hard work. But anyway, it's all done. Everyone's done that bit of hard work. The hair's done the hard work. The makeup's done the hard work. The designers have done the designs. The production have done everything. It is actually quite exciting to be part of it, but also quite. Some people find it quite stressful. I just take If it's going to happen, it's going to happen. If there's a problem, you try and deal with it there and then. And if you can't, you have to do the best you can to get as close to the answer as possible.
And so for something like that, if they want to have extreme work or whatever done, do you get like a long lead up? So maybe a month's notice or something like that? Or?
Sometimes if they know what the idea, some designers can be quite specific, and they're quite organised with their lead time between when they want it to be started and the actual day itself. So you can have sometimes. I mean, sometimes it's been a 5 or 6 days, sometimes it's been 2 weeks, sometimes it's been a month. It just depends on how organised and what the decision is made, because sometimes they might not make a decision on what they want on the nails until 2 days beforehand, and then you have to sort of negotiate whether it's possible to do what they want, or whether you have to come to a compromise to give them something close to what they want, but not exactly how they originally see it, depending on the time.
Oh, it's just mad, isn't it?
It is mad, but it's fun. It is fun. And
so when you're working, so do you? I take it you get to know a lot of the makeup artists and the hair teams as well. So I presume that the designers for the fashion shows kind of come back to the same people again and again.
Quite often, sometimes they will. You have a run of time with the designer a few different seasons. So some seasons, like with Ralph and Russo, for instance, in Paris, we did I started off helping Lisa doing the nails for Ralph and Russo. She then handed it on to me, and then for the last sort of 4 or 5 seasons, she's come and worked with me.
Yeah.
So it's sort of like you know, a mutual respect thing at the end of the day.
Oh, that's
you
good.
had time to do it, and I wanted to do it because it was something I really enjoyed.
Yeah. And is it like a similar kind of setup when you're doing like advertising shoots and that kind of thing, like your front covers and things that you do?
Sometimes it depends. I mean, my first front cover was a Vogue cover that I did independently back in 2014, and I got there and my kit was quite sort of like scarce, if you like. I didn't have press on nails because I'd literally only been doing it for a few months, so I didn't have a supply of press on nails. Couldn't get hold of any because the job came in at 6 o'clock in the evening, so I couldn't get any press on nails. So with a bit of discussion with a few people, I ended up taking some nail tips and then some soak off gel, my lamp, and just in case they wanted long nails, and of course they wanted long nails, but the nails lasted for 2 days, which is the duration of the shoot.
Yeah.
And the nails, not one came off in 2 days. They soaked off within sort of 15-20 minutes at the end. Yeah. Everyone was happy, and they were on the front cover. So it's, you know, so the end result was that it worked, but it wasn't the perfect starting point. But I then realized, okay, I now have to start building a kit.
Yeah.
To get the sort of like the basic essentials in a kit ready to go when you're asked the last minute.
I think it is, isn't it? I think like with anything in well, I suppose really just in life, is like those moments of adversity kind of give you the biggest kick to realise what you do need to be doing.
Yes.
Things, don't they?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. So how does it work? So if someone wanted to get into this part of the salon industry and work for sessions and fashion shoots, all that kind of stuff, what sort of process do they need to go through? And we're going to come to something Nickie's about to launch very shortly, but this will like segment quite nicely into it. So what kind of channels do they need to go through, and what kind of learning do they need to have behind them?
Well, initially they need to have a desire to want to work sort of within fashion and advertising in a way, and the creativity that goes with it, because I mean fashion has there's no depth, there's so much depth to it, and there's you just don't know what the next design is going to look like, or what a photographer or a stylist would want you to do. So you have to be quite adaptable. You have to be quite flexible with timings. You need to be time mindful of your times, at least, you know, try and be there on time. Obviously when there is problems with public transport, then there's problems with transport, and it affects everybody, but try and be mindful of that. But getting into it, you can, if you're already a nail professional, which is, you know, the real thing you need to be, having done it for a few years, got your insurance in place and stuff like that, you can approach agencies to assist. If you know of anybody, say for instance you wanted to assist me, you can contact me via Instagram DM. I'm quite open to being contacted on any means of social media. You can contact my agent, you can contact any agencies who've got like session nail techs, and just offer yourself as an assistant. And if they need one, and you've come across well, and you know you've got everything in place, you don't know. Again, it's going to be very last minute, because if they need an assistant, that's usually an assistant is a last minute addition to a shoot.
Okay, and you mentioned agencies there. So is there sort of an easy way to find the agencies?
I suppose once you start sort of getting your foot wet in the session industry, you meet people, you discuss who, you know, there might be makeup artists who assist other lead makeup artists. So you just chat with them. You have to network. Networking is so important.
Yeah, I can imagine.
You go from one shoot to the next shoot. You'll meet somebody from the previous shoot on the next shoot, even if it's only your second shoot, and then your network suddenly builds out and out and out, and your knowledge of the industry grows. And it depends. Some people call them, you know, management agencies. There are creative agencies. It depends how you search for them. They can be found on Google, because everyone's got a website. But it's there's quite a number of them that. So there's a few big names. There's like Streeters and Premier Hair and Makeup, and a few others I can't think off the top of my head. Yeah. But they allow they like people to be approached. They like to be approached to be have assistance, because they never know when they need them.
Yeah. Oh, so that's quite interesting. I know, because I think it's one of those things, isn't it? It's sort of one of those. It's such a public side of what the industry does, and yet it's actually sort of like a really well kept secret. And unless you know the right people to ask the questions of, you never ever find out how you do it. And whereas if you want to be a nail professional or a beauty professional, you just go online and find a course or whatever, and you start the journey. But to start what you do, you have to be in industry and experienced. And then you have to know that it is very much sort of who you know, isn't it?
It is, and also the other thing you can do is you can look on an Instagram profile of a session manicurist, and usually there's a connection. If they're with an agency, there's a connection to their agent there. And then you can go look on the agency website and see who else might be there. And you get, it's like anything. You look at any website for anything, and if you like it, you think, oh, I might come back here again and have a look. But it is quite quite a secretive is not the right word. I don't think it's not the word I'm looking for. But it's a niche industry that
definitely.
If you don't know how to find the way in, it's not always that easy.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a bit like the Magic Circle, isn't it? Or like Fight Club.
I think it's a little bit more open than the Magic Circle.
Yeah, maybe a little bit. But there is, isn't there? I mean, I've been in the industry for years, and I've known quite a lot of session techs over the years, and it's always like no one ever really talks about how you all get into it. It's just it is this like a closely guarded secret. But once you know someone that knows and you ask the question, then everybody will always say. But I think maybe it's, I don't know, it's a bit of a peculiarity, isn't it? But
it is, and I think it's always been a little bit like, it's always been like that to some extent. It's sort of I don't want to call it elitist because I don't believe it's totally elitist, but to an outsider it probably feels that way.
Yeah. And I should just mention as well, because I can see quite a few stars behind you, and we probably ought to, just because Nickie is an award-winning session tech, and I know because we've both got a couple of stars, haven't we?
A couple of stars, yeah.
It's nice having a couple of stars, but but you've entered lots of different awards over the years, haven't you? And I know you've got 2 session tech awards from Scratch Stars.
Yeah, I've been Scratch Stars probably for session nails is the only one specifically for session nails in the entire nail industry. There isn't the other ones. They're more to do with like the Salon Nail Pro, which is great, but there isn't anything else for us session ladies to do, session nail techs to do it.
No, it's good that you've got 2 of them though. Well done, because they're really hard to get, aren't they? I think there's a lot of award schemes out there that that you just drop your name in and all of a sudden you've got an award. But the Scratch Stars ones particularly, we both know the amount of work that we put into our portfolios and the interview processes and stuff that we go through, and
it's not as straightforward as it seems.
No.
So, even if you're nominated, you have to back it up with a mini portfolio of evidence based on the nomination.
Yeah, I know it is. There's a lot involved in it, and so whenever you do win one, they're always very highly prized. I know my 2. Mine sit on my desk in my office, and I just like to keep them close.
Mine were downstairs in my lounge until I sorted this room out, and this room's it's still a work in progress.
I know. Well, when I'm moving house, everything's cut because I closed my salon back in June. I closed and sold it back in June. And so I've got all this stuff out of the salon. It hasn't found a home because we're trying to settle, like we're going to be moving house. So I don't want it to find a home at the moment. So it's just sitting on my desk next to me. But anyway, so we sort of move on quickly into what it is that you're about to do, because it's all quite exciting. And when I saw this the other day, I was like, oh my God, this is going to be so good for industry. So you are creating a course all around getting into the session world, aren't you?
Well, yeah, because leading up to March 2020, there was often a number of messages, that I get, from people I don't know. How can I assist you? How can I get into the industry? Is there a course out there? And I thought, and I would say, well, you can always if you want to assist me, contact my agent. But it then got, as sort of like everything slowed down and we all had to sort of like take step back and not work for a while, I suddenly started thinking, well, is there a course out there? Because there was a few years ago, back in 2016, 2017 with Mastered, and that was a fantastic course, but there's been nothing since that I could seen. And I just thought that the master course was great, but it was very creative based, so it was mood board based and very, very into the fashion side of things, which was lovely. But the real nitty gritty of the industry is not necessarily, is what really everyone needs to know to get in, is like, you know, what sort of kit do I need for Fashion Week?
Yeah.
What sort of kit do I need for photo shoots? Are they the same thing? Well, yes, they are, but they're very different in many different ways. What insurance do I need? And I didn't realise I needed a different insurance to what I had, because I just thought professional nail insurance would cover me, but actually the one I had didn't. So I was just about to change over, and I quickly managed to do a switch. So there is an element of finding out the insurance. Yeah,
because you'd think, wouldn't you? If fundamentally you're just providing a service, aren't you? That you would whether you're mobile or in a salon, but clearly there's other factors that the insurance takes into account.
Definitely other factors that need to be taken. It only came up because I was a shoot I couldn't actually make in the end, and somebody else I found out about it 2 days later, and some of the set scaffolding fell down and nearly knocked out the photographer, really well-known photographer. Wow. And one of the production people did get hurt, not badly but badly enough. And I suddenly thought, oh, I wonder if my and that sort of like triggered a whole snowball of questions about my own one. And I found up and I thought, oh, well, I'm actually not really sure to be doing this, so I better look into this quite quickly. So it was something that, you know, if you don't know about, you don't look into. So
you don't know what you don't know thing that often comes up in our industry.
So one thing is the kit. The other thing is how does Fashion Week work? You know, because they were all very similar, but Paris is different to London. Obviously, it's a language barrier to some extent. Different plugs, you know, all sorts of things for your kit that you don't think of. Bit of an overnight bag just in case you get stuck in Paris, which has happened. And then what was the other things that so what a photo shoot, what's the call sheet, what's an NDA, what's it like working with celebrities, how does that all work, how does it manifest itself? And these are things that aren't necessarily taught. They're taught by, usually if you assist somebody, you find out as you work, but it's nice to have a bit of information going into the industry, even as an assistant, that gives you a little bit more of the bigger picture, the real nuts and bolts behind the industry. You know, what is a producer? What does a producer do that a director doesn't do? You know, it might sound quite, there's a lot to take in, but I thought, well, is that going to be a bit boring? But actually,
no. But I think it's really useful because, you know, I'm just thinking, oh my goodness. So then when you're on a film set, all of that stuff, you know, if you're doing TV programs or filming, then you've got, you know, all your executive producers, your director, your or whatever those people are called. There's so many different odd names within the filming.
I know. It was the first AD, the second AD, this, the that, and also, I mean, many years ago, way back when in the prehistoric age of my life, I was an extra for a few years, so I worked on films and TV programs, so I had a little bit of an inroad into how it sort of worked even before I even did nails, you know. So it was quite interesting, because it is an industry, a completely different industry again to photo shoots. They all interlink, but they're all very different at the same time.
And I remember when I worked with my old boss, she turned it down, but she had the opportunity to work on Harry Potter.
Oh wow!
But her kids I think it was her kids were really small, and it would have obviously meant being away quite a lot. And so she turned it down, but I don't know who did Voldemort's nails in the end.
I was just thinking that. I was watching that last night. I was thinking,
I was watching the other day. Whenever I see it, I always think of her, just like, I wonder who actually did that. And I'm sure that if anyone's listening who's a session tech from about 20 years ago, they may well have a view of who did that.
But it's really weird you said that, because I was literally watching that the last of that last night, and the camera zoomed into his hands, and I thought, who did those nails?
But don't we all? I think all of us do. It's like, you know, whenever, you know, X Factor's on, and we know that, like, you know, whatever product company team's been up to the studio doing the nails, and we're all just like hooked, like
glued onto the nails. We don't care about the rest. We're just glued onto the nails.
I remember doing it with I've forgotten her name, Mucha thing. I can't remember her last name from. Oh, what are they called? Oh, round. Oh, I can't remember what it's called. What they're called. girl band, Mucha, and she always used to have really long stilettos before they were a thing. And I can remember actually stopping the TV and trying to work out what they had been done to her nails to make them look like they did. And I still don't know who did her nails, and it does always bug me.
I know.
Because they don't put a credit on the TV screen as it goes past, do they?
No, it goes past too fast, and then that's another thing with nails. It's not, they don't always get credited.
Sugar Babes. Sorry, Sugar Babes. That was who it
was.
That's
the one. I remember. I know who you mean now.
I know, but she always had these amazing nails, and and I'm sure it was an amazing session tech that used to do them for her.
I'm sure, yeah.
Or she had an amazing nail tech that was doing them as a regular thing. But,
yeah, definitely.
Yes. So where do you see this course going and developing as once it's gone past its launch?
Well, at the moment, it's going to have a little mini soft launch, if you like, in sort of mid-January, because if I can get sort of like a handful of, say, 15 to 20 nail techs to go through the course, they will then be ready if Fashion Week comes up in February.
Ooh.
And teams are needed. They will then have the information within having a kit and all the things they need to know for Fashion Week. I mean, obviously nobody knows where it's going just yet, so it is a sort of wait and see situation, and it will re-evolve again. But I think that if I start a course before a Fashion Week, that's the first thing they can get involved in that will actually give them the practical value that is part of the industry, is being part of that practicality of being able to be part of a nail team.
Absolutely.
So not February, mid-January is the sort of a name. There's not a definite date yet, but it's definitely mid-January.
Oh, that'd be good. And I think as well, it's a nice time of the year to do something like that, because so many of us are in that kind of little drop after Christmas that there's plenty of time for people to sign up and take part. Definitely. And maybe start developing a new wing to their career.
Yeah.
It is, isn't it? And it is, especially if you're a solo therapist, it is something that you can kind of dip in and out of a little bit, isn't it?
Well, it is. I mean, if some people might only want to do, have the experience of Fashion Week. I mean, obviously, if they work in a salon, it's really good PR and marketing for that salon owner. When the nails are visible, they can use that as PR on Instagram, on Facebook, on with their clients, in their local press. So
and they're able to do stuff, because I think that's one of the things, isn't it? That whole credits thing and who can use the images is always something that needs to be considered when you do session work, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, obviously with session work, if you're doing photo shoots, nothing can go out into the wide world of social media or the local press until the publication that it's published in has gone live. And some of them you can't even post until the book magazine is off the shelves, so it's a month later than when it's been originally. So it just depends. It depends on the criteria that a particular publishing company are doing. But if it goes into the public domain, like Fashion Week is in the press and on the news and in the social media within hours and within minutes of a show finishing. So once it's in the public domain, you can post away.
Yeah. Well, there's so much involved, isn't there, that I think it isn't like, but I suppose really to a degree, like everything in this industry, everyone always thinks it's just a case of sitting down painting someone's nails and or putting some eyeshadow on somebody, or some putting some whatever in someone's hair. They always just think it's a very, very simple process, and as always, it is evidenced to not be that simple, and there's so many different things that you have to consider.
Yeah, some shows can be, you can be there from 9 in the morning and the show's not till 6 in the evening. Yeah. That will be an extravagant show, probably extravagant nails, extravagant hair and makeup, all sorts. Yeah. But just because you might have 40, 50 models to do the similar look on. And so, hair and makeup their teams are huge.
Yeah. And also just one thing, sorry carry on. I was just going to say, one of the things that session work has been synonymous with over the years, particularly within nails, and I'm sure this does reflect across hair and beauty as well, is that there's been a lot of expectation that people work for free. And is that a way? Is there a way of avoiding that? And is that would that be going to the agencies and then the agencies actually do pay people? Because I know it's a real kind of grey area, isn't it?
There is a trick. To be fair, nobody should be doing anything for free, but when you're starting out, if you're going to go into it the way I went into it, you have to if you need to build your portfolio, portfolio building is probably done via editorial work, you know, the fashion pages.
Yeah.
And often they are unpaid, but you have to look at it as an investment in your future, because for every free one, you will end up getting paid jobs. Yeah. Which will mean you're not out of pocket for the ones you've done for free.
Yeah. And
I look at it as a, you know, if you're an intern, you don't get paid very much.
Yeah.
And sometimes if you're doing work experience, you don't get paid at all.
Absolutely.
You know, it's building. There's so many more elements to it. I mean, that's where you need, when you first start out, you need to have an income from having either doing salon work, even if it's on a part-time level, or mobile, so you can work it around your clients, so you've got income coming in from your regular clients. Yeah. They're happy for you to move them around last minute should you get a job. And then you've got that to sort of like buffer you while you're, because you do need a portfolio, because the people will ask you for a portfolio. I mean, I remember when I didn't even have an Instagram when I first started out, you know, and I didn't even know about taking photographs of nails, because it wasn't back then, it wasn't as big as it is now, and that's only 7 or 8 years ago. It's not that far. Not that far.
No. I think because it's one of those interesting things, isn't it? And I think there comes a point, doesn't there, where it's just, you know, you go beyond maybe that working for free, and maybe it shouldn't be considered as working for free. It should be working to build your portfolio.
It's an investment.
And it is that, isn't it? Because obviously, you know, session work can be, you know, paid well, and it can be a really good career pathway to go down.
Yeah, so it can be. I mean, Lisa said to me once, she said, you know, you can go into it just doing fashion week twice a year, working on the teams. You can go into it, you know, maybe do 1 or 2 jobs a month, you know, as well. Or you go into it, and I you know me, I just jumped in straight in. I want the whole thing. Yeah, that's it. And so I did do some of the sort of, I wanted to get my portfolio built quite quickly, so I had to do some of the legwork, and somebody said to me, and it wasn't anyone who was in the nail industry, said it is an investment in where you want to be in a few years. A few years. It can take a few years. It didn't take as long as I thought it was going to take. I was estimating it could take, and I just kept my clients, kept going back to my clients every 2 or 3 weeks. You know, I get new ones coming in, and I just say, well, you know, this is what I'm doing, but you might have to move your appointment from time to time. But I will give you flexibility if you give me flexibility. Yeah,
that's it. So it does. So you get the best of both worlds.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Which is good.
I mean, you know, like anything in life, nothing is ever as straightforward as it might seem on the outside. There's always little niggles here and there, but at the end of the day, it's an enjoyable side to the industry. I really do enjoy it, and if I don't do it for very long, I start thinking, oh, I miss it.
Yeah, I'm sure, because I think there must be a lot of buzz around it, and it is, and there's just sort of, I suppose there's usually quite a big positive vibe on the sets and whatever, and it's just, everybody's always just a little bit waiting for the good thing to happen, aren't they?
I mean, it's nice when you're on set. It's like you get there, you know, 8 o'clock in the morning. You might not leave till 8, 9 in the evening, but you're like a family for that entire day. You've got a starting point, the glam point, and the photographic point, the changing of the clothing and stuff like that. It's all an involvement. It's like a metamorphosis, if you like, all the way through, right to the end, and then it starts.
Be a session tech. I think I'm getting a bit beyond it now.
No, I mean, anyone can still do it. If you just want to do the odd show or the odd assisting, it's still a great experience, you know. And it's not an experience everybody wants. I know it's not everyone's cup of tea, but depends if you want to stretch your creativity. It's how you want to stretch your creativity, and whether, you know, you see it as a full-time, part-time, or just an ad hoc sort of thing.
Yeah. That's good. Okay, so I just want to do, at the end of all my interviews, I always just do like a few quick questions just to sort of, a little bit of industry feedback and what you've done with your career, and just a few silly questions really, but just want you to say the first thing that comes into your mind, and that's it really. Okay. So, what makes you get out of bed in the morning?
Job in London. Usually that's usually 4 o'clock in the morning.
Oh goodness, that's way too early. What's been the happiest moment of your career?
I think unexpectedly winning Scratch Stars.
Yeah, excellent.
Although I was nominated and had to go through the process, it was a surprise.
Yeah,
and it was a really pleasant surprise.
Isn't it? because you see the other people that you're up against, and you spend the whole night just going, imposter syndrome, they're going to get it because of whatever reason, and I think it's just like that self-preservation thing, isn't it? So that if it doesn't happen.
Definitely.
Yeah. What is the best piece of advice you've had, and did you listen or did you learn the hard way?
I think I learned the hard way because I wanted to go into session work 100%. That was the hard way, to be fair, but it was an enjoyable hard way because I learned quickly. I didn't learn the hard way, but in a way I did, and in a way I didn't. It's sort of like it was probably I could probably done it a bit more gradually, but I wanted to go the whole hog.
Yeah. If you could change one thing in your career, what would you change?
That I actually had really nice natural nails.
That's a good one. What person, place, or experience has inspired you the most professionally?
Oh, sorry, I missed that bit.
What person, place, or experience has inspired you most professionally?
I think the experience was doing the very first independent editorial that I did for Vogue, and that at that point was like a pinnacle. I was never expecting that soon.
Yeah.
I can only say that one because the front cover is still my screensaver on my phone, and it's been there for 8 years.
That's it.
That's how important to me it was back then.
Yeah, that's it. And if you're still there now, then that's like, it says everything, doesn't it?
No, it's just that was my sort of like yes moment.
Yeah. They are. Then that's good when you have that. So, what is the best if you go for a spa treatment or something? What's the best treatment that you've ever had, or even having your hair done, whatever it may be, but within the salon industry?
Oh, my hair, yeah. I won't talk about my hair. It hasn't been cut for ages. Probably have to be a shoulder, neck, and head massage.
Nice.
Because I carry a lot of stress quite often in my shoulders and my head, and when you're tired and you're early starts, late finishes, and early starts and late finishes, actually you hold on to a lot of stress in your shoulders, your upper back, and your neck and your head. So I always, over everything else, I'd go for that. Not a full body massage, not bother about the rest of my body, just put my head and neck and shoulders.
Yeah, put them back together.
Yeah.
but that self-care is just so important. And, and I'm
a bit like Humpty Dumpty sometimes.
Yeah, I know. I've got a meeting in a couple of weeks, and I've just had to ask them if we can actually just have it half an hour later because I've got a massage booked that morning, and I'm not missing it. Self-care is so important, and I know at the moment I'm 2 weeks away from it, and I already know how much I need it, so I'm not moving it.
Yeah.
Okay, and would you do it all over again?
Yes, definitely.
Absolutely. I think most of us.
I don't know if I would even tweak anything. Or the industry, I would say that they need to sort of like update how things work when you're going into the industry about being paid for things, editorials especially. They don't always pay, but you get some good if you can get some good images to start your portfolio. Then you're away. Once you've got them, you don't have to keep doing the freebies. You can just choose the publications if they come in and they want you. Yes, I'll do that, even if it's not. Even if it just covers your travel expenses, for instance. I'd rather have that than not have anything. Yeah, this is it. But if you can get your image out there, and it is nothing. That's the wonderful thing with session work, isn't it? Is that your image is out there and the public can see your work. Whereas if you're doing that for free, sitting at your dining room table and you're giving free treatments away to someone to try and build your career, no one ever really sees it, do they? No, but with what you do, you can. But I think it's nice, and also when you see something of yours in print, especially if the nails are really visible, and you might see a billboard when you're on the train. I say, oh, I just seen a photograph where something I did on Orpington Station, and I was on the train and it whizzed past it. And I thought, so then somebody else I know is a makeup artist going to a different photo shoot, took a photograph of it, and it seemed stopped at Orpington Station. But I think those little things are really important, aren't they? Because I think it just shows that no matter how successful you are, those little things still kind of are what melt your heart a little bit. It is exciting. it's almost indescribable when you see something, especially when you know how hard you've worked to do it, to get the job the first thing, how long you've been there for the job, and then the images come out and you think, actually, I'm proud of that.
Yeah. And that's what it should be, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
So finally, so anyone that wants to get in touch with you, how can they do that? And how can they find out more about what you've got coming up?
Well, I've just started not so long ago a little Instagram page called Session Work Academy. That's the sort of holding name for the I suppose the school, the academy.
Yeah.
The course is going to be called something slightly different. It's going to be called Nailing Session Work: The Creative Blueprint.
Ooh.
Because I want there may be more courses under Session Work Academy eventually, but yeah, so you can DM me via that. You can DM me via my main Instagram, which is Nickie Rhodes-Hill. That's where I put all my sort of like session work photographs and a few sort of random ones thrown in. And yeah, so anyone who's interested, feel free to contact me. I'm trying to build up the sort of like what I call the founder members of the first run of the course.
Wonderful.
So if you're interested in being part of that, you might be quite surprised that you can get in there quite quickly.
Wonderful.
Get started quite quickly from mid-January.
That's great. And what I'll do is I'll put we'll get the details and we can put those on the show notes as well, so that they can go there for perpetuity. And yeah, and it's been great talking to you.
You too.
And we'll stop the recording now. And yeah, and can't wait to get this out so everyone can hear all about it.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's okay. So big thank you there to Nickie Rhodes-Hill, giving us an insight into the really, really interesting world of session work within the salon industry. It's a massive area that is open to lots of different types of opportunity and across all of our different fields of work. So if you're interested in joining her on her first course, then you can get in touch with her. Details will be in the show notes, as we said. And just little interesting bits to take away there, how, you know, you do need to have experience in the industry and qualification and the right insurance as well, which I think even for someone as experienced as Nickie was a bit of a, seemed to be a bit of a shock as to that being, you know, making sure that you aren't going to have some scaffolding drop on your head. But a real enlightening moment for her career that maybe, you know, just one of those things that you don't know what you don't know. So just make sure that you have all of your right protections in place. But that was a really, really great interview and lovely to share some time with her. And I really hope that you enjoyed it, and do get in touch with her if you're interested in understanding a little bit more about the session world and taking on her course, which will be available in its soft launch form in January. So thanks ever so much and see you next week. Bye for now.